Anger and despair in the streets of Quetta. Thousands of Shia Hazaras defy the cold weather for the fourth day to continue their sit-in protest. A few days earlier, 10 coal miners, who were all members of the religious minority, were massacred by the Islamic State group. In this time of mourning, the Hazara community calls upon Hussein ibn Ali, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, who was beheaded in 680 in Karbala, Iraq. He is the inspirer of Shiaism and a symbol of martyrdom for the Shias. In these coffins lie the bodies of the victims. Among them, the father and brother of this young girl.
They worked in the coal mine to make a living. It was night, they were asleep. Terrorists came and blindfolded them. They tied their hands behind their backs, shot them, and slit their throats with knives.
We're forced to dig mass graves. Oh, Prime Minister, for God's sake, do us justice. We've been sitting here in this terrible cold for 5 nights now. Please, give us justice.
Shias are frequent targets in Balouchistan, Pakistan's most dangerous province. The Islamic State and the Taliban have strong roots in the region.
We pause for prayer and then give the floor back to those who want to speak.
Arbab Liaqat Ali is one of the organizers of the protest.
Excuse me, sorry. These are the 11 bodies of the martyrs who were killed brutally. You can see on the photos that they were all young. There were 5 people from the same family. I myself have lost a brother in the past. I have lost friends and relatives. I know the pain of losing someone. But another stage of brutality was reached with these martyrs. They were massacred.
A week after the attack, the Pakistani Prime Minister finally came to Quetta to offer his condolences to the families of the victims. In neighboring Afghanistan, the situation is even worse. The Islamic State group sees the Hazaras as one of its main targets. 4 years ago, a suicide bomber from the extremist group targeted this Shia mosque. Since then, it's been under the protection of armed guards 24 hours a day.
How's the situation?
Everything is fine for now.
Have you seen anything suspicious?
Thank God, no, but we're vigilant.
We have 5 armed guards and a woman who searches women at the entrance. All the guards are paid by the government, except one who's paid by the community.
The history of the Hazaras is tainted with abuse. In the 1990s, thousands of Hazaras were massacred under the Taliban regime.
Unfortunately, I think the Shias are going through the most difficult period in their history. For us, it can't be worse or more dangerous than this. Mosques and religious schools are not safe. Cities and bazaars are not safe. There's no security anywhere.
Back in Pakistan, in Quetta, behind these walls is Hazara town, home to more than 600,000 members of the Hazara community. All entrances are guarded by paramilitary forces. Every vehicle is inspected before entering. The community is cut off from the rest of the city, a ghetto, further isolating the Hazara people.
Identity card? Okay, it's okay.
we meet Arbab Liaqat at his family house. He lives with his parents.
We live in confinement. There are checkpoints all around the town. People cannot come and meet us openly, especially the Pashtuns, Baluchis and Christians. If they try to enter our area, they are stopped by the militia guards and they ask them to prove their identity. We have the impression that we live in a military base. When I come home at night, I have to show my ID.
My paternal grandfather came to Pakistan when the Afghan king Abdul Rahman massacred thousands of Hazaras, so they fled to take refuge here. That was 150 years ago. Whenever I'm alone, I complain to my ancestors and ask them why they settled in such a country. You could have gone to Germany, I tell them, or you could have fled to Iran. We wouldn't be targeted like this over there.
I have 5 children, may God protect them. This is Liaqat and this is Sadakat. There were targeted assassinations here. Hazaras were being killed every day, so we sent them abroad. One of them was 16 years old and the other was 18. It's been 7 years since they left. I don't know when I'll be able to see my children again.
Arbab Liaqat Ali rarely leaves the Hazara enclave. He teaches English at a tuition center.
How are you all? The topic that we have today, that is violence. And who produced violence? Extremists. Extremists.
The Hazara ethnic group has a reputation for educating their children, especially young girls.
Got it? Fine? That's great. So, we don't have anything except education, because education is something which makes your life brighter. I always tell my students, every dark tunnel has a bright side. Every day is a new day.
But for these students, it's not easy to see the light.
Now the question comes here.
People think that we're worth less than other ethnic groups. Every time we go to government offices to get a passport or identity card, officials discriminate against us and the process is made longer for us, even if we have all the necessary documents.
Just beyond the Hazara enclave, Sunni extremist groups openly express their hatred for the Shias. No Hazara dares to venture into this Pashtun majority area of the city. In central Afghanistan, the Hazaras have their own territory, the Hazara Jat, meaning the land of the Hazaras. The rural province of Daikundi is one of the most isolated and poorest in the country. But there is a social progressiveness here, which has favored women. In fact, the head of the provincial council is a woman, something you don't see very often in Afghanistan.
Security in the provincial capital is very good. I'm the head of the provincial council and I have no police or bodyguards to protect me. I can interact freely with the people.
Security in most of the province is not bad, but in some districts there are problems. As traders who have to travel back and forth to Kabul know all too well.
Hello. Hello, Haji. Haji Saeed, how are you? How's business?
Business is not good.
Have you heard anything about security outside the capital?
The Taliban collect taxes on the road in Jalwez district. Drivers have to pay, they have no choice. They pay between 1,000 and 2,000 Afghanis, between $20 and $30.
This representative of a district in the south came to share his concerns with the provincial authorities.
Over the last 4 or 5 years, more than 150 civilians, as well as members of the local security forces, have been martyred. They have been killed by the Taliban, Al-Qaeda and Daesh.
I've heard that the local police at the checkpoints have nothing. They don't have proper cover and not enough ammunition nor proper cars for transportation. What can be done? Have you complained?
Police in other parts of the country have equipment. They are well treated, but that's not the case here.
Here at the front line in Pato district, the security of the provincial capital is at stake. It's thanks to Pato that the rest of the province is safe. We've gone several times to the central government for help, but nobody listens to us.
Before the Afghan constitution was introduced in 2004, the Hazaras were denied the same rights as other citizens. Farmers like Asadullah Khan have taken up arms to defend themselves against the Taliban. A few years ago, he led a self-defense militia to fight them. He's lived in this house since his property was destroyed by the insurgents.
This is my home. I had 20 hectares of land before. I had tons of wheat and corn crops. I had almond trees, apple trees and pomegranate trees as far as the eye can see. Now look at the state it's in. They destroyed everything.
At the age of 72, Asadullah Khan wants to take up arms again.
I have to fight. I know I'm old. I'm diabetic, but I have to do it. Either I die or I get my property back. 500 farmers like me are ready to follow me if the government gives us weapons and money.
He decides to go to Kabul to present his request to the authorities, but his request will remain unheard. In neighboring Bamiyan, the Hazaras are nervous. There was an explosion 4 months ago near the famous statues of the Buddha that were blown up by the Taliban 20 years ago. Peace negotiations may be underway to end the war, but the Hazaras, like other minorities, fear that their interests have been forgotten.